Hello, welcome to Combox here for the incredible Pakistan-Sri Lanka game that in the end made absolutely no difference at all, and yet at various times felt like the most important game we were ever watching. It really was. I feel a little bit stupider for having believed in this game at all, but for me, I would say this. If nothing else, there's a lot of people telling me this game was fixed. If you honestly have now watched that entire game and think it was fixed, cricket's probably not for you. Right, there's probably something else that you need to watch in your life. I'm Jared Kimber. I'm here with Varun Alvagonda as well. I think Bayram's dropping in shortly, or at one stage.
I think he just finishing up his live on Pro Sports. So yeah,
he'll be coming over. What a fascinating game, because we are sitting here going that Pakistan underscored by making 212, and yet having watched the rest of this tournament, Pakistan massively overscored, Varun, by making 212.
It was such a stupid game, Jared. I think I was telling Behram on his live that this is one of those games where Sri Lanka either bowled out for 90 or they'll chase this, and they nearly did. Like, you knew this something was like this was going to happen. Like at one point you're like, oh, could Pakistan pull this up when they were like 3 or 4 down? And then they were like, okay, game's done.
My favorite thing about this is how
and then
sensible.
New Zealand chase this down. I still don't know how that happened.
Well, my favorite thing about this is the two games that Sri Lanka had to bat normally in, right? Yes. They batted as if their ass was lit on fire, right? And then this one, they went, do you know what? Actually, now that we're out of the tournament, what if we just knock the ball around a little bit? Maybe take a chance. Okay, that hasn't worked. We'll pause it and we'll come back later. That's the batting that we kind of expected in the other two games, but they just came out and just kept pressing wicket over and over again when they were batting. Like it was absolutely fascinating all the way through the different things that happened, and how many times also it was like, oh, this isn't actually going to be a big game, or this isn't that important, or Pakistan's going to score so many runs that Sri Lanka's going to collapse, or whatever it may be. And every way through, this game went, no, we've got one more twist for you. We're going to drag you back in. Oh, you think this game's over? How about some dew?
No, I think at the 10-over mark, I was thinking, you know, have you seen like on a TV show, The Flash? There's like something called the speed mirage, where like you go so quickly that like it almost looks like this split into two or something, like from different timelines. It felt like that for me with Sri Lanka. I'm like did they accidentally think like they were batting in the previous games at the 10-over mark? Because it felt like they were chasing 150 and not 213 at one point, right? They were batting like they were going for like a target of like 150. It almost felt so odd.
I think what happened is when the Sanka went out, and I think they realized what had happened in the other games. Yeah, that they just, because remember, it was both the game and also the Zimbabwe game. I'm trying to remember back to the Zimbabwe game as well, but certainly in the New Zealand game and the England game, they just tried to score. They tried to score like 200 runs in the power play, right? And I wonder if when they lost that early wicket, and because it's Nasanka, they just said to themselves, no. This is okay. Let's just bat like normal human beings for a couple of minutes and see if we can bring this back and take it from there. So I don't know. I mean, maybe we're putting too much analysis on what is a game that is almost beyond analysis at any point. Like, I'd love those people who thought it was fixed. I'd love to know what moments they thought was fixed in this game, because there's about 48 moments that made no sense whether you were fixing or not fixing, let alone trying to work out the actual situation of where we were going. So I thought it was incredible. Bayram's here. Well, let's go to the man himself. Was that a wide or was that not a wide?
That was definitely a wide. I'm not sure what the umpire was thinking over there, but what a wild game of cricket. Like, proper roller coaster ride. Ultimately, Pakistan defeated Sri Lanka by 5 runs, but I mean, they had an opportunity to actually qualify for the semis. I think the death overs batting of Pakistan kind of cost them, because they were 163 for no loss in 15 overs. They should have targeted 230, 235. They end up with 212 for 8. So in the last 5 overs, Pakistan score 49 runs and lose 8 wickets as well. I thought that was where the game kind of ended, because defending 147 on a pitch where there's going to be dew, that was tough work.
I've seen that quite a bit before, actually, where when the opening partnership goes that long, the problem is everyone else comes in and just thinks they have to hit a 4 or a 6 every ball. right? And you just end up losing a bunch of wickets. But, you know, they lost, 3 wickets in 4 balls or something at one stage, and no one gets in because everyone, and then you stuff up with the batting order. And I'm not even saying they made mistakes with the batting order, but you stuff up with the batting order because guys who've been sitting there waiting to go in are suddenly not going in. You've got all these random things happening, and that for me, you're probably right. I think if they got to 240, which looked on, that would have been really tough for Sri Lanka in the end. And maybe the Jews still plays a part, but I just think Sri Lanka would have been out before they were close enough, if that makes sense.
Look, it was a good toss to win for Sri Lanka, and Dasun Chanaka makes the right call of chasing because this is going to be due in the second innings. I thought Pakistan's best chance was to bowl first and then bowl Sri Lanka out for like 120, chase that down in 13 overs. Perhaps that could have worked out. What do you make of the 7-4 formation? Hesson has stuck to 8-3, then he goes to 9-2, and then he goes to 7-4, which is not something we've seen in his entire tenure as Pakistan's T20 head coach. It was wild.
I think in a game like this, when you know that you have to win not just by a little bit, but by a lot, I think having extra all-rounders and a longer batting order kind of... If your number 9 is making runs in this game, you're probably already screwed, right?
Yeah.
So you're probably not going to win by 80 runs if your number 9 has to make 20 off 10. So I think in that kind of game, it probably makes sense. And then on the other side, you also need to bowl the team out, right? Like, we didn't know that coming in, but there was always a chance of that being the other side of it. So are you more likely to bowl a team out if you have 4 frontline bowlers rather than 2 or 3? Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty okay with all that. Can I show you one of the spiciest hot takes in our super chats here?
Okay. Got corner taken quickly, who says, call me crazy, but Farhan's innings lost the match. You can't play 60 balls and score just 100 runs when you need to win by 65 runs. Massive Fakhar carry job. I don't entirely disagree with him.
No, I mean, the way of looking at this is that we were talking about this with Abhishek Sharma the other day on our piece on Abhishek. Even with Abhishek, you eventually get a point where you kind of start to slow down in T20 cricket. And part of the reason is it's very different than other formats of cricket, right? Where it's not just the balls you hit, it's the balls you miss. It's a bit like in boxing. If you're hitting balls, you actually keep your energy up. But when you start to play and miss it a couple, right? You lose your energy very, very quickly. And so once you get past 30, 35 balls, it happens a lot. If you've been playing a lot of shots, you stop being able to hit the big balls, right? If anyone's ever watched a heavyweight fight, have a look at the last round when they're just sort of patting each other because they've just exhausted themselves out, right? And a similar thing happens with T20 batters when they're really going for it the way that he was. And he was trying to hit the ball really hard, really often. He's got that kind of Luke Wright style about his batting where it's very masculine and like bottom handy and he's trying to overhit every single ball. And those are the sorts of guys you would think that would affect as well. The issue here is that that this comment makes sense, except for the fact that no one else came in and made any runs. So if he goes out, let's say 4 overs earlier, maybe they make 190. I mean, I don't know. Like it's hard to say that is the case. But yeah, probably.
The other argument is if he does go out 4 overs earlier, maybe the batters coming in would think they have the luxury of taking 3 or 4 balls to get set and not think they have to go immediately.
I think that's fair, but I just think this was a wicket that once you're in, you could hit on. And I think that all the way through the game, we saw that, right? That once you're in, I'm not sure the 3 or 4 balls would have mattered in that situation. But you're right. I mean, it could have gone in a very different direction if he'd gone out. But who's going to retire him? Do you know what I mean? Like in that form, it would have been the wildest call of all time.
Also, if you break down his innings, right, if you've been following Saibzada Farhan's World Cup, and you better be because he is top run scorer. In fact, he overtook Kohli to score the most amount of runs in a single edition of the T20 World Cup ever. So there's a record. He scores 100 of 60 today. His 50 actually is faster than his previous ones. Today he gets 250 off 32 balls. Usually it takes him around 37 balls. And then, his 100 comes off 59 balls. Then he's out next delivery. I think that he ran out of steam a bit. There's that thing. I do feel like he was huffed and puffed because he was running pretty hard for his twos today. Usually not a Saibzada Farhan thing. Usually he's a pretty lethargic guy.
He's not an elite athlete.
No, he is not. But then again, another thing that we need to consider over here is that how many times did we see Saibzada Farhan smash the ball to short cover? Right? Like, there were plenty of those balls. So he didn't make the most of his bad balls either. And I don't want to completely slag him off because he's been such a star batter for Pakistan in this tournament. He scored like almost, over 1/3 of their runs? And he's the top run scorer of the tournament. But I can see the logic of how someone would think that 100 of 60, ultimately cost Pakistan. Although I'm with you, Jared, no one else performed.
Yeah, it's This isn't like the Dawud Milan 100 in when England were trying to pass 500, is it? Right, where everyone made runs and through no fault of his own, Dawud Milan playing like Dawud Milan stops them making 500 runs. This is 2 guys made runs, and what should have happened is the other 9 guys should have combined for another 50 odd runs, which gets them to the total, which probably gets them into the semi-final. And that doesn't happen. And as I said before, I think it's probably a combination of when he went out, it was hard for everyone else to start straight away, and everyone felt the pressure that they had to go straight away. And sometimes that happens. It's not that rare. As someone who watches a lot of T20 games, this is something I see a lot, right? Where the openers go absolutely ballistic, and then it's like, well, surely everyone's got to score, and the others just don't, right?
Yeah.
So
also,
these things happen.
Sri Lanka give Pakistan a fair few opportunities if you think about it. Theekshana drops Fakhar on 15. Then Shanaka had the cotton bowled opportunity to dismiss Farhan on 74. Vilalage then drops him in the same over, Farhan, when he's on 75. Plus all the misfields and the overthrows, Sri Lanka were really, really sloppy in the field. So Pakistan getting to 212, there's a bit of element of that poor fielding as well from Sri Lanka, I feel.
Is Varun not going to speak?
Usually he tries to wing these things, relying on you and me to speak.
Yes, that's very true. Sorry,
We need
I was
Rob
just
Barron for
looking
the
at
fielding, man,
comments.
honestly.
I thought you were talking to Jared too.
I mean,
Yeah.
there was an element. There was an element there in that period of, like, I think once they hadn't got a wicket early on, I think Sri Lanka were a bit like, well, what's happening here? Like, what's the benefit for us in that sort of situation? And then when the collapse happens later on, they probably put themselves into a situation where they're like, actually, they haven't scored. They haven't hit us out of the game now. Like, we have a chance. But yeah, there was that period where it felt like there was a misfield every 2 balls, right? And that they weren't stopping it very well. And, some really key errors that were going on. But again, and I think this is probably why people are like, oh, the fix is on. It's like, this is what happens when you're an elite team and you're in a position where it doesn't matter. Like, there's a part of you that's just like, what are we even doing anymore? Prudvi here says, cricket player does a bad thing, which they do quite often. And fans think, is this fixing? And that says more about the people who were suggesting it than it does anything else. But the truth is that you do get situations where it's obviously that was not a fixed game. Imagine writing that script down. Guys, this is how it's going to go. And you hand it in to someone. The guy's like, we can't actually replicate this. This doesn't make any sense. But
there was this one point, Jared, if you remember, Lanka took a catch riding the boundary and he stepped on the Toblerone, right? And that's the point where on our Pro Sports Live, everyone was like, that looks dodgy, that looks dodgy. And I was like, yes, that's really poor work. And it does look dodgy, but Sri Lanka have no benefit over here either, apart from perhaps getting another game in their host
sometimes
country.
shit cricket is shit cricket, right? Not every
Yeah. Also, like, imagine them going, Lanka, just when the ball's coming towards the boundary, if you could take a catch really casually, but then stand on the, like, when people say fixing, like, I study this shit for a living. Right? I've been involved with judges, with cricket boards, with anti-corruption boards. I have, given testimony, right, on fixing and all sorts of things. I basically changed the way the BPL was run, right? That in no way could you fix that moment, right? That's not how you fix moments, right?
Also,
the way that you fix things is so different to that.
Yeah, usually also we don't see a lot of match fixing now. It's usually spot fixing because that's much easier to control and much easier to spot as well, isn't it?
I was going to say, it's a really easy thing to see.
Like on 14.3, where you need you to bowl a wide or no ball, right? That's very different to, okay, in this specific moment, if there's a catch hit long off with the ball that's like 25 meters high in the air, we need you to make sure it goes for a 6. I'm like, who the fuck is predicting that?
Yeah. And like Theekshana bowled a full toss and everyone's like, oh, is it fixed? And I was like, well, he does bowl full tosses sometimes. But if it was fixed, he would then bowl he bowl a faster ball down the leg side to try and get 5 wides. Then he bowled 2 more full tosses. That's how fixing looks, guys. It's not just as Prudvi said there, oh, someone has made a bad cricket moment, so that must be fixing. If that was the case, all cricket is fixed all the time.
Yeah. Also, Fakhar Zaman undoubtedly played the knock for Pakistan. It was a better knock than Farhan's. He gets to 50 off 27 balls and ultimately ends with 84 of 42. But he's dropped on 15 by Theekshana. Things could have been very different if Fakhar is caught there. And then he was also caught behind on 46. They never sent it upstairs. They didn't take DRS for that one. So Pakistan had their fair share of luck as well to get to that total.
I wouldn't have given that out if that went upstairs. That ball was
I
not
didn't
next
see
to
the
that.
exact delivery.
Wasim Akram was absolutely certain that he hit that. And he's going, look, you see the spike? And I was like, yes, you also see the massive gap between the ball and the bat, right?
Is it?
That is the one. Yeah, there's I thought there was a gap
Okay.
there.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Some umpires would have given that out. That's not a... But my point being is that even in that situation, it was like, they were really quite on TV. They were quite forceful about it. And I was like, I don't know if I would have given that out. Actually, I know I would not have given that out. If that had come back up to me, I would have said, the umpire didn't hear anything. And that just looks weird to me, that spike. And the ball doesn't seem to be next to the bat. But yeah, look, Sri Lanka were all over the shop, right? But this is one of those things as well, when people talk about all this sort of stuff, have people been watching the rest of the tournament? Like, Sri Lanka have been all over the shop pretty much from the start, right? They have had such a... We did it in the power rankings where I said, I think I had them as 9th, right? And I was like, I actually don't know where to rate this team because they're so weird. Because we have the game against Australia in the middle of all this where they look, brilliant. But there were times in that game against Australia, it looked like they were going to go for 400 runs. In that game, right?
True.
And there have been other times where they start to hit and you're like, whoa, look, this team could be anything. And next thing you know, they're like 5 down for 40 or something, right? They're so bizarre, Sri Lanka, right? And they have been all tournament long. The same with their fielding. There have been games when we were like, oh my God, is Sri Lanka going to become a great fielding side again? And then the next game we're like, oh my God, how many donkeys did they actually have out there that don't know how to stop a ball?
Yeah, and even if you look at their batting innings, right, for the longest time, Pakistan was in this game with a chance to qualify for the semis because Sri Lanka weren't doing particularly well. Kamil Mishara played a bit of a blinder in the power play, which is why they get to 49 for 2 at the end of the power play, right? Then they're 85 for 3 at 10 overs. You're still thinking a few more wickets over here, things could turn. At one point, they were 101 for 5, and I was like, get Ratnaike, and Pakistan are in business.
Yeah, exactly.
But then it's weird how they're 135
and they basically doubled that score.
Knocked Pakistan out. Then they actually get close to the target. Yeah. They scored, 72 runs for the loss of 1 wicket in the last 5 overs to get to 207 for 6. It was incredible how they nearly won the game from there.
I called the family in when the 5th wicket fell, and I said, because I think if Pakistan take a wicket here, Pakistan could win this, and it could be really, really exciting. I was right that it was going to be really exciting, but in no way even similar to how I had brought everyone in. And it was really one of those kinds of games all the way through. To go back to Pakistan in the first innings as well, of Sri Lanka had bowled a whole ass full of shit all the way through, right? And then suddenly at the death, they were like, oh, no, we've got this. We understand what we need to do now, and we're just going to nail it. It's like, you had 16 overs to bowl like this, right? Why wait until now?
It was crazy. I mean, I was on the live and we were discussing what Pakistan need to do when we did power play score predictions. I was like 62. The other guys were in the high 50s. Pakistan scored 64 for 0. At the 10 over mark, they're 102 for 0. And I, at that point, said after 10 overs, they need 160 in 15. They were 163 for 0 in 15. They had to score 230 to 240 over here. And then the death overs batting kind of lets them down. But then again, all of those new batters, they came out, tried to hit, got out. The batting order still wasn't all too bad. They kind of tried to send the right guys at the right time. It's just that no one came off.
It's one of those things where I think, again, it might have been one of the TV commentators was like, oh, they're getting too funky with the batting order. And I was like, this is one of those things where you just send out, like I've been in the dugout when these sorts of things have happened before, right? You just kind of send out who you think is going to work in that moment. And sometimes because you can set everyone out. That is not a position you're in that often in a T20 game where it's the 15th over, right? And you're thinking we still have 9 different human beings that we can send out.
That was Babar Azam, right? I think that is Babar Azam. I think it's you, Babar Azam. Jared, that was Babar Azam, right?
No. Oh.
Goodness me. Okay. Hello. Wait. We'll just take a quick ad break, guys.
100 years ago, something truly remarkable happened in cricket. No one knew how to get Bradman out. And so, some of the smartest minds in English cricket got together in a smoke-filled room at Lord's, and they talked it out. It is no different than you talking with your uncle, with you whispering at the back of the bus, with you sitting around in the tea room arguing with your friends. This is what we do in cricket. We love the game, we talk about the game. And that is what we do at Combox, where the game lives on. That was fun. Whatever the hell that noise was.
I think we know it's Bahram. I think it was
It might be
Bahram.
Bahram. I thought it was me, but I couldn't work it out either.
Yeah.
We've actually talked quite a lot about the little bits of the game, but we haven't mentioned all the players.
So Subramanian was just saying this. What we were saying is like Pakistan is the most entertaining team in the world of cricket. First, it looked like they will restrict them. Then looked like Sri Lanka is going to win at the end. Pakistan won the last ball by a third. Like, yeah, sounds.
I
sounds
think
about
this
right.
is underplaying Sri Lanka's part in this, right? Because they're just the same. What was it that Fernando used to say? That like Pakistan gets a lot of credit for things that Sri Lanka does every day, right? And there was an element of like in this tournament, I would say in this tournament, Pakistan have looked like a more thorough professional team, and Sri Lanka have looked like, hey guys, let's see what we're gonna do this game.
I mean, this
Am I
whole
fine
group
now?
is like that, isn't it?
Yeah, you sound good
you
now,
sound
mate.
good.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
we was. I think Rob and Bahram were talking about this before. I think the Super 8 stage, right? Like New Zealand is like the one team you can trust to be like on point every single day in this group. Everyone else can either look like the best team
Yeah.
you ever seen or look like they never played cricket, and that's kind of what happened. New Zealand just did their thing and they qualified, whereas every other team has been so high or low in this group. It's been like it's so random, and we saw that today, right? Like Pakistan playing England and Pakistan playing Sri Lanka was just hilarious for both teams.
Yeah.
I don't
mean,
think
it
this
was-
comes as this isn't. I didn't think this is as chaotic overall as that England Pakistan game was. That was stupid cricket on both innings. This was just like almost like a second innings domination in terms of stupid cricket. I want to say.
Yeah, I mean, look, this was still a roller coaster ride in terms of all the different things that could have happened. Like, for the longest time, we thought Pakistan were in with a chance, and then Sri Lanka nearly win the game, right? And, like, Dasun Shanaka was one hit away from winning this game for Sri Lanka. Doesn't turn up for the most part after that 19-ball half century in the group stages. And today it was a 24-ball 50, unbeaten on 76 of 31. That is the high end of Dasun Shanaka that we got to see today in a T20 game. So Sri Lanka have been equally bizarre, I would say.
Yeah, no, I mean, absolutely. And as I said, you get to a position, I think, mentally where you're like, you're not taking it that seriously. And then the openers go nuts, right? I think that's also another big part of this emotionally. Like, I'm not saying that Sri Lanka didn't go out to win the game. I think they did. It didn't go their way early on, and then they couldn't get the wicket of the openers. And at a certain point, you're just like, and they're all pointing at each other and blaming each other. And you know, they're not blaming each other just for that mistake. They're blaming each other for the fact that they're going home early at this tournament. Like, it becomes like that. And also, I mean, we barely mentioned him, but Fakhar Zaman was absolutely incredible, right? Like, I mean, I think the other day, Robbie was saying that they had to bring Fakhar into this side. And Varun quite rightly was like, but he doesn't make runs in T20 cricket. This is the exact innings that everyone knows that Fakhar Zaman should play like this, but we've never really seen it consistently in T20 cricket. And then he's like, oh, okay, so we're basically out of the tournament here. I'm just going to drop this in. Maybe he only plays good cricket for Pakistan in major tournaments, Bahram, when there's a chance that Pakistan's about to go home, like the Champions Trophy.
Yeah, look, he is known to be a big match player, and he even had that knock versus Australia in the semi-final that they lost in the 2021 T20 World Cup, right?
Yeah.
The Champions Trophy 100 versus India, and that was a phenomenal tournament for him overall, right? He kicked Ahmed Shahzad out of the team like permanently over there. And over here, I mean, look, Fakhar is really, really unlucky that Pakistan haven't played him as an opener in T20 cricket consistently, because he's done really well for the Lahore Qalandars in the PSL. But in T20s, he's often dropped down, and he's been this versatile batter trying to fit everyone else in the top order. It's been kind of unfortunate today when he ramped Shanaka for 6. That was like probably my favorite shot. It was an incredible knock, but I still thought Pakistan missed a few tricks with the selection, right? So Saim Ayub, Babar Azam and Salman Mirza went out to make way for Naseem Shah, Abrar Ahmed and Khwaja Nafi. I think Saim should have played. You keep that explosive dynamic batter in there who can also bowl a carom ball, just because, like Fakhar, if Saim comes off, there is a very high ceiling to what you can achieve.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at his numbers here. Even as an
Underwhelming,
opener,
dude.
even as an opener, he's underwhelming. He's been underwhelming as an opener. He's been underwhelming when he's not an opener. Like it's remarkable to see a player of his talent with his hitting ability to be averaging 24 in international T20Is with a strike rate of 132 over what 120 matches. It's not
Yeah.
like, it doesn't make any sense. And then you see him today and you understand why a cricketer like Robbie's like, oh, just, Fakhar will fix this. And it's like, well, he should, but he often doesn't. And then I just thought he was absolutely brilliant today. The way he went about it. You talked about the six. Was it Liange, the one that you meant?
Oh,
Or you
yeah.
got-
It was Lianage who he ramped for 6, I believe.
That was incredible because it was 120 Ks an hour. That
Yeah,
shit
it
doesn't
was
even make
really-
sense. Why are you ramping a
slow.
guy bowling like that? Right? And then the next ball, he plays almost a sweep shot off him. Right? He was so in control of what he was doing. And they were actually, thinking back on it, they were actually really good decisions because there's no way that Lianage is going to come in and bowl a slow ball first ball. So he knows it's going to be pace on. Not a lot of pace, but pace on. And then the next ball, he's like, great, now all I need to do is get inside it and get it over these two fielders. I thought it was just genius batting. Again, where has this been for 119 other games?
Yeah, really, really underwhelming T20I record for Fakhar. But today he looked like peak Fakhar, and I don't think he's going to play another T20 World Cup because he's old. But fantastic 84 or 42. Two guys who could have
We
done
just
what
answered
Fakhar
this.
did.
We just answered this from Latam, who said,
Yes,
why
yes.
doesn't he always open? We do think he should open more, but he's also been
Yeah.
shit when he has
Because
opened.
he's been shit, right? Yeah.
No, but
Because he's been
Pakistan were-
shit is the answer, right?
Yeah.
Pakistan was
yeah.
so persistent with Babar and Rizwan for the longest time, they could have tried Fakhar a bit more in that particular era, right? Like, because they were like
Yeah.
sure shot, like stubborn over there that no, these two guys have to open. But anyway, apart from Fakhar, there were two other guys who had ceilings so high, I thought they could potentially pull off something incredible for Pakistan. One is Saim Ayub, who I talked about. Why the hell have we not seen Fahim Ashraf in the Super 8 stage? He's the reason Pakistan were in the Super 8s versus that knock versus the Netherlands. That was a bit of a
Yeah.
shocking decision for me. He's a
I
really
don't
good
think
utility
they
batter,
know how
and
to
he
use
could have
him,
smashed.
right?
He could have smashed
Yeah.
pace at the death. You know?
Yeah, but the thing is, right? Like, I understand why they don't know how to use him because, like, even though like he looks like he should be a number 7, I don't know if I'm a top order batter, I wouldn't be that confident if he was at 7. And his bowling is not really good enough for him to be a proper number 8 all the time. Like, what do you think about that, Jared? That's the way I feel about Fahim at times.
Yeah, I think there is a bit of that, isn't there? How many? I was actually just trying to have a look at, has he bowled in T20 internationals? I'm just trying to have a look at his overall record in T20 internationals. So he's got 61 wickets and 85. I mean, he's hanging around, isn't he? His figures are actually good overall. But I think if you're in a game like this, do we really expect him to help you bowl anyone out? Right? And I think that maybe that was the part of it. But yeah, I think he is one of those players who there's probably franchise teams that he fits into perfectly. He's a little bit like, I was going to say Tim Bresnan, but Tim Bresnan's still angry that I made a video about him. I'm mentioning that recently. But Tim Bresnan or Sam Curran or those sorts of players who in some teams don't work at all and in other teams are absolutely perfect. And I think if
I
you
kind
are...
of see it.
Yeah, I was thinking that as well. He's probably
Yeah.
not quite that because he's a better bowler and not as good a bat, is he?
Yeah.
He's the bowling all-rounder version of Shivam Dubey, I think.
I would
Yeah.
say Fahim Ashraf is a slightly better version of Dasun Shanaka, honestly.
But Dasun Shanaka can bat in the top 7 and then gives you 5th/6th bowling overs, right? And I think
Yes.
the problem with Ashraf is you probably end up in a situation where you're like, do we actually want him to be one of our 5 bowlers? No.
Yeah.
And do we
I
want him
also
to be
don't
one of
wanna
our
lose
7
him.
batters?
Yeah.
No. And so that's what I mean. That's that.
7.5, Jared.
He is a 7.5, exactly. And that's what I mean of, like, it's like the Sam Curran situation when Sam Curran was out of the side. It wasn't actually really Sam Curran's fault. It was just that he didn't fit into the team at certain points, right?
So,
And it's
Jared,
why
I have a
Sam
question
Curran can
for
make
you.
some teams incredible and make other teams look worse.
So where would you say he ranks in the 7.5s of the world? Like if you put Sam Curran, Marco Janssen, Corbin Bosch, Fahim
Bo
Ashraf,
Webster?
or-
Any takers for Bo Webster?
do we throw Akshar Patel in there? Like fuck it, I'll throw Akshar in there as well.
I
might as
think
well.
I think the things with all those other people you've mentioned though is that almost all of them are better bowlers, aren't they? And are more useful
Yes.
at the top level, right? So
Yeah.
I'd have to have a look at his overall career. I think his overall numbers are fine, right? But I think once you get to that sort of must-win game situation, he's probably more of a stock bowler at that point. And we haven't even talked about this, that Pakistan got completely screwed over by the fact that because they didn't make those extra 40 runs, their best bowler in this tournament was turned into absolutely useless, right? I'm not even sure why they continued to bowl him because he wasn't going to get a wicket, right?
Usman Tariq looked rattled. Absolutely
Yeah.
rattled.
it wasn't rattled. I can tell you what it is. Almost all the time he's bowling, either the pitch is in his favor, which is great, or he's in a situation where people are trying to hit him for 4s and 6s all the time. He is set up as a bowler for those two situations. And today, what Sri Lanka did was they went, well, we're not going to go at him very hard. We're going to go at everyone else really hard so we don't lose wickets off him. Now, the next step for him is whether he can become the Sunil Narayan Rashid Khan, because the same thing happened to them. People stopped attacking those two guys, right? And they became great defensive bowlers on the back end of it. He just looks a little bit easier to milk. Hey?
But they do attack him today, don't they?
Yeah.
I'm misremembering.
I mean,
Yeah.
he does
What was
go
his
for
figures?
43 runs in 4
Yeah,
wicket
I wouldn't have
performances.
said they attacked him. I think if you go back, what did he go for in the first 2 overs?
He went for quite a few. I think the first over was
I
like
think-
14
the
or
first
something.
over is
No?
expensive.
I think
First
they
over
milked
was
him.
definitely
Go back
expensive.
and have a look.
Yeah.
Don't just go on figures. Go back and have a look. I could be wrong, but I felt they were just waiting
Okay.
for him, right? Whereas teams usually come at him,
I see.
right?
I do
Also,
think his lengths
It could
were not
also
as
just
good
be their better
today.
players to spin.
That's also there.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, look,
that's fair.
Usman Tariq had an off
I can
day,
see
none
that.
for 43 in 4 overs, but Pakistan essentially needed to defeat England to make the semis, right? And they didn't play Abrar versus England, and Abrar generally struggles versus left-handed batters. Today, he cleans up Mishara with his first ball, lefty, and 1 for 2 in 1 power play over. Then comes back and cleans up Asalanka and Kamindu Mendes, and even though the Kamindu ball just died, right? But that's 3 bold dismissals versus left-handed batters. 3 for 23 overall. He changed his angle. He came round the wicket versus the lefties,
Yeah.
which is what he always should be doing. And he didn't play versus England, and we all know how much England struggle versus Wade spinners. So I think that is also a tactical blunder that Pakistan make over here.
Yeah, probably they did. That pitch was slightly different though, wasn't it, as well? I thought, and maybe some of this is also wickets, and you know there are different parts of it. But yeah, maybe that was another mistake they made. They went all in on the spin until they didn't, and it probably came back to bite them a little bit. But I still think against England they were probably a seamer short.
Fair enough. And Naseem started off quite well today with the back of the hand slower one, which gets Nisanka. But when Pakistan get Nisanka, everyone starts to believe, right?
That ball was incredible, by the way, because I'm not sure coming in he was going to bowl a backhand slow ball there, and he sees him go away. That is not an easy ball to decide to bowl late. That's a really hard skill, because that is one of the hardest balls to bowl in cricket, full stop anyway, right?
Yeah.
And to be able to decide, oh, wait, he's moving away here. And also, that's the right option, because once you start to move, one of the reasons backhand slow ball works so much is it throws your balance off. Well, once you're moving, you're already throwing your balance off a little bit. I thought that was absolutely genius. I mean, it means fuck all for the game, but so many things today did.
What did you guys make of Salman Ali Agha's captaincy? I thought the bowling changes were fine, but I wasn't too pleased with the field settings. Like, there was no slipper when you needed wickets, and Nawaz got the outside edge. It went away for 4 to the third man fence, and I thought he needed to have a slipper.
You should,
over there.
like, we always say this, right? When you put a slip fielder, you have to take that from somewhere else, which means it opens up a boundary option somewhere else. So it's one of those things where I'm like, everyone always says this, right? You see this a lot in Test cricket. It's like, oh, well, why is the field so spread? I'm like, because otherwise you'd be complaining about too many boundaries. That's
Yeah.
why the
You're
field is spread.
defending 147 on a pitch that is.
What was
helping
the score
batters.
when that happened?
It was close to 100 from what I recall.
Yeah, so it was 4
It
or
was
5
like
down
95.
for about 100.
I think 95. 4 down for
I-
95, maybe.
If you're asking me at that point, they got a wicket straight after that as well.
Yeah.
If you're
he
asking
did
me
go
at
out
that
behind
point, I would probably be thinking to myself, oh, they're collapsing here, and we really need to make sure that we're in the best position if they start to collapse. I wouldn't have brought in slips and things until they were 6 down. That probably would have been my moment to do that. But yeah, it's different captains. I mean, if that's Kyron Pollard, he's got a leg slip, a slip, and a silly point in, right? Like,
Yeah.
But I've seen lots of captains do that in T20 and not work. It's the Rob Barron rule, right? Of when you're in a situation in a game like that, you want to put the odds in your favor. I'm not sure if I'm the captain that a slip at that stage is in my favor, because I'm actually already got them. Sri Lanka, we're going to keep playing big shots, right? So your best chance of getting them playing big shots, is that an edge to slip? Or is it having the fielders out on the boundary? So look, I get it. I don't think you're wrong, right? Like, I definitely understand why you're saying it, but I do think there's an element of it. You know, there are 2 ways to make that collapse happen. And one is you put a slip in, maybe you bring in a short cover or something as well, or you even bring an extra fielder in, which if I'm captain, I probably do. But most captains probably think, no, what we need to do at the moment is keep the pressure on them, let them see the scoreboard, and then when they start to knock it around, that's when you bring everyone in, right? And at that stage, they were still going.
Yeah. Also, the issue is because there's two different targets here. It's Sri Lanka of playing for the actual target, where Babar Azam is saying, well, why aren't Pakistan bowling like it's their target? So there is a bit of a mismatch. I think what you're saying, Babar Azam, usually works if when both things are aligned. Whereas I think because both things are so different, there isn't really a right method. And
that's the point, isn't it? You're saying you're going to take 6 wickets for 48 runs, right? At that point, roughly. That's bloody hard to do if you don't have all your fielders out as well, right? Because it goes in both ways. That's what I'm saying. I don't think there is an actual right answer or a wrong answer in that situation, because if they had got the 6th wicket, right, when they first started hitting sixes, that first one goes straight up in the air, right? They probably would have rolled through Sri Lanka at that point, right? And they had a huge chance of winning. So, it can go in either direction. There's no right answers. There's only Pakistan.
Yeah, true. And I mean, I can see your logic. And Lianage went out soon after anyway. And Nawaz is the one who got him. But Pakistan didn't help themselves in the field either. We talked about Sri Lanka's fielding, but Pakistan were quite terrible. Shadab misses a run out when he has 3 stumps to aim at early on, right? And it's a Shadab. Shadab Khan is supposed to be Pakistan's best ever fielder. He should be getting that run out. There were misfields. Usman Khan could have gotten Lanka behind the stumps when he was on 12. There was an edge, but it hit his leg. Again, tough chance, but there was still a chance. Nafe nearly pulled off a screamer when Lanka was on 24. There was that. And then Ratnaike was dropped by Fakhar when the game was done. Pakistan were already knocked out. Ratnaike was on 55, so maybe that doesn't matter. But Pakistan needed to be perfect in the field. In a game where Sri Lanka are set up to at least knock them out, even if they aren't set up to chase down 213.
Let's be honest. It was a good batting wicket, right? So the chances of you bowling a team out for 148 relies a little bit on Sri Lanka going, fuck, we're out of the tournament. And probably relies on an Abrar spell with someone else, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It probably needs someone else as well. And they just didn't quite get
early
the second.
Shaheen wickets. You needed Uzi Tariq to be on the top of his game. You needed
one of those two things. Only one of those two things. Because that is one of those things of I remember when I was with Scotland, we had to win a game by heaps against the Netherlands. I think this is right. And and everyone's playing like a dual game in their heads, and it gets to you a little bit. But once that starts to work and you realize what you're doing, like everyone sort of pulls in the one direction. But there's always a part of you that's like, well, this is actually really hard. Like, we've got to win this game by 90 runs, or, we've got to win this game by the 12th over, or whatever it may be. It's like, we would never plan to try and beat a team by this much. Do you know what I mean? So it kind of needs to fall into that place naturally, which it did with the opening partnership, and it did when Abrar was bowling. And then you need the whole team to go, oh, okay, we've got this, bang. And unfortunately, that was the bit that was missing there.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'll still maintain that Pakistan's best chance to go through the semis was bowling Sri Lanka out cheaply if they bowled first and then chasing it down in 12 or 13 overs.
That's
but you
usually
can't fault
the best
them for trying.
That's the way that you usually do it, right?
Yeah.
That's a much easier way of handling it.
I mean, Pakistan have been a poor team in this tournament. They haven't had many good days because they got swept away by India, and then the England game they should have won. But today I can't fault them for trying. They did some good stuff. Some Sri Lankan performances really go under the radar. I don't think anyone else is going to be talking about Dilshan Madhushankar. And he went for 17 runs in his first 2 power play overs, but he ends with 3 for 33. So the 2 overs at the death are 3 for 16, which is brilliant. And this is a guy who wasn't even a part of the squad, right? Sri Lanka have had a billion injuries themselves. So I think he did really well. And Shanaka might have gotten Sri Lanka super close to victory. But Pawan Ratnaike knocks Pakistan out, right? Like, that knock completely kills Pakistan off. And even though it was, a 32-ball 50 and 58 of 37, he has had some good knocks in recent times, although the shot versus England was terrible. Even though Sri Lanka will be very disappointed by their display in this T20 World Cup, there are some players over here to look forward to in the future.
I actually think both of these teams are not... This tournament was way too early for both of them. I thought that perhaps with the extra spin and Pakistan being in Sri Lanka, they could make a better run for it. I had them quite high up the power rankings. but the pitches actually haven't spun that much since then, right?
Yeah.
They almost spun. Weirdly, they've done the opposite of what ICC tournaments do. They kind of usually spin more later, and they haven't. So once that spin disappeared, Pakistan's looked a little bit like they are a team trying to work out. I mean, the fact that they've gone in with 7-4, 8-3, and 9-2, right, tells you that is Mike Hessen thinking to himself, we don't really know what our best version of this is yet. And it's the same with Sri Lanka of, we talk little things, right? When Hasaranga was injured. And we were like, oh, great, they'll bring in Jeffrey Van der Sey, who's been bowling against England and bowling quite well. I'm sure he'll come in. And it's like, no. We're going with another guy who's basically a club spinner, right? Like, these teams don't really know what their best sides are at the moment. They've got younger players who are talented. There's a lot out there. But also the fact that they've dropped Babar Azam after bringing him back in. They brought him in as insurance, and then they decided they didn't want to pay the premiums.
Yeah, I mean, look, he had to be dropped. They dropped him a bit too late, in my opinion. And his T20I career at least should be over. I don't think he fits
Oh my
into
God.
any plans.
If it's not, what has happened? What? Let's try and write a script of what would have to happen next, right? In order for Babar Azam to play another T20 international.
I often think to myself, are they hell-bent on the idea that he can be a middle-over spin negotiator? Because he hasn't really proved that. Or is it the pressure of dropping a superstar? Because he really hasn't been performing like a superstar. I don't know what quite happened over there. He shouldn't have played versus England. Or even, been in the lineup for the New Zealand game, which he was. That game never happened.
Yeah, I mean, we did the big feature on it, and you and I have talked about this a lot. I understand why Pakistan went with him as a player, but also we have given him so many chances to evolve, right? So like there's so many fans saying to me, Australia should have picked Steve Smith. And I was like, Steve Smith averages averages 24 or something for Australia at a strike rate of 120, right? They have had conversations with Steve Smith, and they have said, we do not want you to play this way. We want you to play this way. We want you to do this role. And Steve Smith refused to do it. Then when he decided he wanted to play in the Olympics, he's like, oh, I'm going to take T20 seriously, right? Yeah. Babar Azam has had the same kind of conversations. The only difference I would say is that with Steve Smith, there is consistency because he's having the same conversations with the same people over and over again. Whereas Babar Azam's had the revolving clown car of different people involved in all of this all the way through, right? Like we get that. But everyone in the world has been saying the same thing, which is you are not scoring quick enough. You are not putting pressure back on. This is not how T20 cricket is played anymore. And he has either been unable, as we've talked about before, or unwilling to change his game.
I mean, I don't know if he's stubborn or if he just can't upskill. I don't know what the correct answer is over there. We will never know.
The issue with what you said, Jared, is like, whilst you're correct about that, he's not even done what he's done before this tournament.
True.
Like, right? Like he's had plenty of chances in this tournament to start by the 50 of 38, and he would probably wins them a game, and he hasn't done that, right? So it's one of those things. Shayan kept saying this, right? Like Pakistan keep picking him because they're like, okay, we can use him on a tough pitch, and then Shayan's like, well, is he even good enough to bat on a tough pitch anymore? Because his test and ODI numbers suggest he's not, right? In recent times, so it's like they're picking him to do something in case something goes wrong when he's not done that well, and then on a flat pitch he's not got the intent to like be good consistently either. So it's that's one of those things. You're just hoping he comes good instead of him actually not coming good. It's weird.
Well, Hessen said that we can't bat him in the power play because he can't maximize the power play, and there's no point sending him after the 10 over mark. I agree. So he's good for 4 overs.
Yeah, I think it's simultaneously both the high volatile and a safe pick at the same time. I don't know how they've done that, they always do.
Yeah, I mean, look, they did not have much of a clue of what sort of lineup to go with because going from 8-3 to 9-2 to 7-4 tells you a story. They were clearly confused. And I really do think that Abrar should have played that England game because England is the sort of team who would give a lot of wickets to Abrar. But then again, these things are better said in hindsight. We never thought Shaheen should play the England game. He ended up taking 3 power play wickets and a 4 for, right? And
I thought he was going to bowl really well today, and then he went the other way, right? So it's one of those things. And also, it could just be that Babar isn't in great form at the moment, right? Like I
don't know, man.
These things are always possible.
I think we're past that, Jared. It's been 3 years.
No, but what I mean is it might have been 3 weeks ago, right? He's seeing the ball fine. He gets into the tournament, he's not seeing the ball well. Like, I'm just talking about micro little things that happen to players, right? Abhishek Sharma was making all the runs and then made all the ducks, right? You know, it's sometimes that's just what happens to you. Sky was in the worst form of any Indian player and then saves them the first time they need a batter to stand up, right? Like,
True.
These things can also happen. The problem with Babar Azam is that we are talking about a lifetime of talking about him at this point.
Yeah. We've done like multiple features on him, multiple footmarks on him. Go check out the previous footmarks that we did on him, by the way. The great Babar Azam go slow. I think a lot of that stuff, a lot of the conversation that we had has kind of happened in the tournament, right? Like my concerns have definitely come to life. But anyway, let's move on to the super chats, Jared. It's been a while, man. There are a lot of super chats.
Sorry.
Karthik Udaya says, I was told. Oh, okay. Gargi
He's not
SD
told.
says, Babar, Shadab, Agha, Shaheen out of T20. Fakhar, age is not on his side. Major overhaul needed. Same for Sri Lanka. Needs overhaul, especially bowling. Overall,
I like Sri Lanka's bowling.
Yeah.
I mean,
I like
they
it a lot.
all were injured though. That's the thing.
Yeah,
but
they lost Hasaranga, Patirana,
Yeah, if they had a
Kusal
fully
Mendes
fit,
towards the end.
yeah, if they had a fully fit bowling lineup, I would actually, and I'm not sure if they've had one for a tournament since they've started putting their good bowlers together. They won that Asia Cup with a good bowling lineup, and we've almost never seen them have a fully functioning bowling lineup since. I definitely wouldn't be throwing out Shadab, Agha, or Shaheen based on but I also wouldn't be playing them all the time. I'd be looking at other players and everything else, but those are not three players that you would get rid of. Baba obviously, and Fakhar again, like just because of his age is probably a bigger one there. But no, I don't think that there's major overhaul needed. I think that there are sides in development without the talent that they need at the moment, and getting rid of I think Australia at the moment, if Shadab Khan was suddenly available and there was a trade market, right, Australia would be like, yep, we'll take him. Like in a heartbeat. That's the kind of cricketer that a lot of other teams would like to have. I think South Africa would like a Shadab as well, right?
Yeah. I mean, Fox Savan over here says, last World Cup for Fakhar. Can we call Fakhar clutch king of Pakistan for the last decade at least? Fixer claimers are in shambles. Reddit had gone bonkers. I mean, our chat in the Pro Sports Live had also gone bonkers.
I put up a
we've
tweet.
talked about-
Do you remember when they showed the footage of the big the lights and there were all the bugs around it? And like they did like a zoom out and it looked exactly like the upside down in Stranger Things. I put out a tweet about that and everyone thought it was about fixing. I was like,
Wow.
guys, it's just a visual. What is wrong with you all?
Yeah, classic cricket fans. Look, Fakhar probably,
Yeah.
yes, last T20 World
Yeah.
Cup for him just because he's old. Babar is also done. Shaheen, I think, should just rest for a bit, right? He's also ODI captain. I don't know if he should play many T20s
He
at
doesn't
all.
know if he's ODI captain,
Yeah.
though. What time in the day is it? He might have just lost it and he'll get it back in 5 minutes.
Yeah. Shadab and Salman Ali Agha, let's see what sort of PSLs they have, right?
Yeah.
We'll see more of these players in the Pakistan Super League, and then we'll probably be closer to what Pakistan's new and refurbished team should look like in the next cycle. There is this one kid, Mas Sadakat, who's really exciting. I think he would probably get in a shout. All right. Vibhor Seth says, at his best, how quickly can Farhan score a century? Late 50s, right? 57, 58, 59. That's
yeah.
probably the best he can do. He's shown us that. He scored 200s in this tournament alone, and one was off 58 balls. Today it was 59 balls. So oddly similar in that regard.
Yeah, he's, as I said before, he's, I mean, it'd be great to get someone like Robbie to talk about his technique. But for me, he's got that kind of, he's really trying to hit the ball very hard, which means he kind of strangles the ball sometimes. And so that's why when he muscles it and it gets in the middle of the bat, it just disappears. But he mishits an incredible, he's got brilliant hand-eye coordination, but there's something about his technique. As I said, the player that it reminded me of the most was Luke Wright, where I don't think Luke Wright was as good a batter overall, and Luke Wright was probably a little bit stronger and a little bit fitter. But that same kind of guy of like, it was actually painful to watch them at certain points. You're just like, oh my God. Like my wife, Miriam, hates Luke Wright. And and she doesn't know anything about technique, but what she's picking up on is that thing of him trying to like grind the bat into like dust in his hands. And I think that Farhan has a similar kind of element to that.
Farhan is Luke Wright and Ross Adair's crossover. Because the bottom hand is very similar.
Yeah. I mean,
Anyway.
I wouldn't. The only reason I didn't compare him to Ross Adair is that Ross Adair's not actually a cricketer. He's a rugby player who holds a club.
Yeah. Well, let's see if there's a Farhan documentary after top scoring at the World Cup, because he did make one after he hit Bumrah for sixes. Arnav Jindal with a super chat says, what is the deal with Sri Lanka? Yes, their star bowlers were injured, not dead. Shout out to Rob. But they're not as bad as losing their last 4 matches. Is it talent or administration or management?
Look, they're a team in my belief that really has to bowl you out quite cheaply. And what they've been doing in this tournament is actually getting themselves into good positions with the ball. Today was not a good example of that. And then, but they don't bowl attacking. They're so defensive with the bowling, and you can't allow players to do that. You can't hold many of the top teams down for scoring, right? They're just not the way that teams play anymore, right? And so you have to keep taking wickets. And so several times in this tournament, I thought Sri Lanka just stopped trying to take wickets. And that caused a lot of problems for them because they don't have a batting lineup that can bat you out of games, right? So you have to keep going.
Too reliant on Pathum Nissanka and Kusal Mendes, and that's never a good recipe for success.
Was it the England game in the West? Did they play the West Indies? I'm trying to remember.
They did not play the West Indies, no. They had the England game, the New Zealand game. They botched both games. In fact, they had New Zealand at 84-6.
There we go.
Zimbabwe.
Yeah. So
they only defeated Australia.
What did they have in England? Did they have England early wickets?
They had wickets throughout that innings, the English innings, and England probably did a bit better in the end to get to 147. They should have won that game. That's the one they really throw away.
They were all over them with the ball, right? In that game, they should have bowled them out for 100, and they didn't try to bowl them out for 100. And I think that looking at the way their team sets up, that's what they should be trying to do.
Yeah. Okay.
Also, they batted like idiots versus England and New Zealand.
Yep.
So.
S. Vishwas 1 says last 5 overs were Dasun Chanaka's brilliance or Pakistan's resignation. I think the batters were too new at the crease. They knew they had to whack it, and they just kept going out.
Yeah, there was a couple of balls. It is one of those situations we get really excited when people hit lots of sixes, but there was a couple that looked like they could have gone straight up in the air and didn't go that far over the boundary. Also, I think Pakistan had to have an emotional reaction to the fact they knew they were out of the World Cup. You're not trying as hard once you know you're out of the World Cup. And then the third thing was there was clearly due by that point, right? The ball just wasn't coming out of their hands as well.
I thought Vishwas was asking about the first innings last 5 overs because that's where I feel like Pakistan lost the game. They needed 230 to 240.
Oh, no, I thought he was talking about the
he is talking about Shanaka's knock.
It was still great hitting by Shanaka, but Shanaka's, he's so frustrating because he can do this, but it's so infrequent.
Yeah, Pakistan had just resigned as soon as Sri Lanka got 148. You could see it in their body language. They had given up. Suri Proy says, 4 runouts missed. Can Pakistan not Pakistan for a day? Yeah, they did miss an awful lot of runouts, man. And the Shadab one really should have been a runout. That's the guy to get you a runout.
Yeah.
3 stumps to aim at.
They were, as we said before. Again, these are the sorts of things that if you put that together with Abrar's bowling, you have a chance. And they didn't put this together. They had chances. They didn't take them.
Is that 4 runouts or 4 direct hits? Or is it the same thing? Because I feel like teams miss a lot of direct hits anyway, don't they?
Yeah, but that one... It was a different one. It was too close.
At a certain point, though, if you're trying to bowl a team out for 40 less than par, you kind of have to get the direct hits foreign.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's very true.
Fair enough. Okay, what's next? We've got Jack who says, wish it had been a tie. Super over and a dead rubber would have been hilariously amazing. New Zealand do a Pakistan, get themselves some nifty Kudrat ka Nizam going. No, I think New Zealand are just the better team, man. You've got to give it to them. I think they're just a better.
At the very least, they're a more even team. I think that's
they're more consistent.
They're both even and better. Yeah,
you know what to expect with New Zealand. You don't know what to expect with Pakistan. But those sort of teams are also fun. England is one of those teams, like Pakistan.
So the average is higher than Pakistan, and the standard deviation is lower. It's probably the sort to explain it.
Essentially, Jared, can you say this phrase?
So I've always struggled with this one, and I think it's something to do with the dyslexia. Also, I don't like the letter Q, just as a personal point of pride.
What's my last name? What's my last name, Jared?
You can think of it as
Your
K.
last name is Bogan. But it's Quadrat Ka Nizam. Is that right?
No, I think it's easier for you to think of it as a K instead of a Q.
Yes.
I think.
No, so that's the issue I have, because I know it's a K, right? But once someone tells me it's a K, I don't read it as a K. I think to myself, wait, QK? K? Is it Q? Do I say it like Q? That's the problem I have with the kind of
Someone said Kudrat ka Nizam with the K in the chat. I'll put it up.
How do you pronounce Quinton de Kock's name if you've got these issues, dude? Too many Qs, too many Ks.
So the Q in Quinton, right, is different than the Q in this. That's the problem I have. Don't get me. You don't want to get into my mind about why some words work for me and why they don't.
This is easier for you, Jared.
That's actually now harder. But I've never actually like, if I can't tell Christy from Kirsty, and people think I'm going to do like literally, how am I going to do with any other language?
I actually, now that I come to think of it, I don't think Jared has ever taken my last name. He's just always called me Behram.
No. I used to
Maybe-
call you your name when we first started. No, for sure.
Fair enough.
I don't always do last names because I had to do Varun's today, and I almost stuffed up with Varun's, and I do it with other people's as well. I don't say Robbie's last name. I don't always say Rob Barron's last name, right? But when I say Rob Barron, I now try and do it in one thing because I know this sounds weird, but the more details I have to think of, the more chance I'm going to fuck up. And if I fuck up a white person's name, no one gives a shit, right?
Yeah.
But if I fuck up anyone who's not white, everyone's like, oh, you can't pronounce that person's name. It's like, it had nothing to do with that. It's just because I'm trying to keep 5 things in my head for the intro, right? And so it's easier for me not to have to do that. It's the same as, there was a great moment on the BBC the other day where Henry Moran was trying to do maths on air, right? And he was trying to work something out. And I've done commentary for years. There are people who can do maths while they commentate without even taking a beat. Dan Norcross is the king of this, right? And Jim Maxwell, I think, was another one that was really good at this. And there are people like me that if you ask me to do maths on air, right, you might as well ask me to like knit your sweater. Like there's no chance I'm going to be able to do it. And yet I'm brilliant at maths in any other situation. But it's the way that these things work. Anyway, quadrat a film no, I was going to make a Quidditch joke then. I fucked it up. Quadrat in the Quidditch?
How about this, Jared?
Oh my
See,
god.
that might have fucked up his name forever for me.
Yeah, you're trying to break him, guys. Go easy.
It's pretty easy to do.
Give me the other super chat
Raj should pull
structure.
up the next shot. Yeah.
Yeah. N43059 says DRS for wide ? This could happen in a World Cup final. I do like that rule from the IPL actually.
Yeah, absolute nonsense that we're not using that everywhere. I think it was someone did it before the IPL, I want to say. But I remember talking to this with the Big Bash guys years ago. I was just like, there's just no reason not to do it, right?
Yeah.
Like it's a bit, when I used to complain about the no balls. Remember when the umpires just stopped calling no balls and they would, and then we would only check them when there was a wicket? And I was like, that is the stupidest thing ever. You have a camera, just look at it. And I'd be told by TV directors, you don't know how hard this is. And I went, well, it can't be that fucking hard because you show it afterwards, right?
They
And
even
now
removed the tram lines, Jared. There was extra tram lines for the leg side wide, which they removed.
don't get me started on that. This tournament's been really weird from that sort of stuff. But yeah, you have a perfect example here where a ball is bowled and we can't look at it again, despite the fact that we can actually see it. Right?
Yeah.
And I don't know what the regulation is. My thought process is that if the ball hits the line from that angle, it should be a wide. But I'd have to look at the actual playing condition. But if you're bowling over the wicket and it hit the line, I would have called that not a wide. But on that angle, I don't know how a normal batter in their normal stance is supposed to play that ball.
Agreed. I think
was
the
a
issue
wide
with
for
wides
me.
also is it's not like a hard line because batters move, which
Yeah.
I think is another reason why we do
Yeah.
need DRS. It's not like a
True.
no ball, right? No ball is a no ball regardless of the situation.
I agree.
With the front no ball. So
The
it's like,
tram lines, maybe with technology,
it's a
could move
reference
with the
isn't
batter,
it?
right? It is a
Yeah,
reference.
it-
But anyway, Akshu
yeah.
over here says, I might be crazy, but to me, the last ball wasn't a wide. I swear it caught the line when passing Shanaka. Maybe I'm misapplying the rule, though.
That's what I'm saying.
I
It
don't know,
definitely
man.
hit the line. I
Yeah.
think you could almost see the chalk come up. I have no doubt that it hit the line. But I think actually more of the ball was on the outside of the line. But also on that angle, I'm not sure it should just be about the line, is what I'm saying. Like at that
I
point.
agree with you. I think if
Yeah.
it's just the line, I might have seen it as 50-50
Yeah.
call, but the fact that it kept going away.
If
I
he was
think
bowling that
it's
around the
really
wicket
difficult.
and it hit the same place,
Yeah.
100 times out of
Agreed.
100, I would say. I actually don't think it was a terrible call. But the point isn't really here whether it's a wide or it's not a wide, right? That's up for the umpires, and we'd have to read the playing conditions to go through it. The issue here is that this game finished on a damp fart for no reason because we couldn't actually review that. It would have been more, even just the review, even if it stayed a wide, would have been more fun than what happened, which is Shadaka leaves it, and then we're like, okay, everyone, time to go home.
All right. What do we have next? We've talked enough about the wide. And there's another super chat on the wide where Ashu says, feel bad for Sri
Okay.
Lanka. Last ball was wide. Look,
We've
man,
been
both
through
teams
this,
are out.
yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Sudi Proy says Australia got knocked out by 2 teams getting absolutely pounded in Super 8s. They did, but those conditions also were not in Australia's favor. They
I was
can't
gonna
do
say-
matches.
This part of the
I mean,
tournament probably
yeah.
would have suited Australia a lot more than the part that they played in, but they weren't a very good team.
Yeah.
Also, like
And,
I think as we said, right, if Mitch Marsh plays like the Zimbabwe game, they probably might still have won it.
Yep.
True. Could have happened, right? He only played 2 games and scored 2 good knocks and he was out. All right.
played 3
What do
or
we have
2?
next? Karthik Udaya says, I was told playing an ICC event with few venues without flight travel is easier. Wonder where are the naysayers hiding now? Safe travel home neighbors. So everyone acknowledged India won the Champions Trophy because they played the best cricket.
Yeah,
They
that's
also acknowledged that
just a nonsense thing to
I
say
mean, they're
on this
different
channel.
points, right? I think it's
Yeah.
And
So
also,
it's
it
still
was
an
easier for
advantage, yeah.
Pakistan to play in these games, but Pakistan's not very good. And we also
Yeah.
said that beforehand. If you want to come and
Exactly.
give us money for things that we've already said before, fine. But you should be saying this to the people who say the opposite, which is none of the three of us, right? We
Also-
all said before it was an advantage to Pakistan to play in in Sri Lanka. We all said that, right? But we also said they're not ready for this tournament. They're not quite at that
because
level
they
yet.
could play all their spinners who seem to be in better form than the pacers, and because the pitches are lower scoring, they don't need to worry about the top gear, which they aren't very good at accessing, right?
Yeah.
So it's
Also,
like
just a
both those
bit on
things went
this,
in their
right?
favor.
India had an advantage when they were in Dubai for the entire Champions Trophy because they didn't
Yeah.
have to travel and they had no fatigue and they were the best team, which is why they won. Despite the help, they would have won anywhere. We said this plenty of times. Pakistan didn't have a 1-to-1 like India either. Pakistan don't play all their games at the same venue, for instance. There might be less
there was-
travel fatigue, but they play at the SSC, they play at the Premadasa, and they play in Palekele. And there was more travel, but I'm not saying that's why Pakistan
also-
lost. I'm saying
also the
Pakistan wasn't
Palekele-
as good a team.
The Pally is probably the one that doesn't favor them the most.
Yeah, the
if you look
Dewey-
at them as a team, yeah.
Dewey
So it's a
ground.
bit of a different. Like if they'd stayed in the other venues, things may be a little bit different. But yeah, we've said all this before. It's just, but thank you for
Yeah,
the free
dude.
money for agreeing with
Yeah.
us before you even put this comment up.
Arjun Karayan says, I think if Pakistan would have shown similar intent in the India game, we could have got a good game, although still India would have crossed the line. They did show intent. They couldn't bat.
Yeah, I was
couldn't
gonna
come
say
off.
they showed too much intent. I think me and
Yeah.
Varun would say.
They were done in the first 2 overs because it was far too much.
Yeah,
intent.
like Babar Azam does an attack spin for a whole year and slogs Akshar in the first ball. So I'm like, okay.
If me and Varun, who are the most intent merchant people of all time, are going,
Hmm.
whoa, slow down, guys. I don't think intent is the problem here.
Yeah, it's skill, man. Simple. Pakistan aren't that good a team. They're a middling side who have a high standard of deviation, right?
Yeah.
So that's it. What's next, Rakshit? Sangram says, how frequent is fixing in international cricket? It used to
not
be
that-
very frequent.
Yeah, it's not that common anymore because franchise cricket it is just much easier to fix something in franchise cricket. There's no patriotism involved. There are more games. You can rig the entire league. So spot fixing is a lot more common now in franchise cricket than it is in top level international cricket. Associate's the one we really have to look at. Associate cricket is, I really do think associate cricket is the next big problem that fixing is going to have, and the one after that will probably be franchise women's cricket as well.
D10s?
I imagine it's very easy.
D10
the
is
because
T10
completely
Yeah.
rigged.
Yeah, anything,
because
all
those
the
cricketers don't make a lot of
T10s are
money,
bad.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anywhere where cricketers don't make money and they're playing lots of games that are in front of cameras where there are big betting pools is an issue. And these big games, it's not quite the same anymore as it used to be. I'm not saying there hasn't been any cricket fixed in this tournament, and I'm not saying that major teams haven't been involved in that. What I am saying, though, is compared to the bad days of international cricket, the vast majority. If I'm trying to fix something now, and I've tried to do this with Rob, and maybe one day we can work it out together. But we tried to work out how much money you would actually need to how you would actually organize a fix in India-Pakistan game, for instance. Because I think everyone else thinks it's easy, but it's actually a really, really interesting conversation to have, and how much money you could make off it. It's nowhere near what people think they can. Whereas if you're fixing an entire franchise league, like a T10 league or the BPL, you can make so much money.
Yeah. Anyway, let's move forward. This one's answered. Rohan Dadood says, thoughts on so-called premium fast bowler and premium all-rounders performance? Look, Pakistan didn't play well, man. Shaheen had a poor tournament. That one good game versus England is it. I don't know who you mean by premium all-rounders. It's Shadab. Shadab
I
had a
assume
couple of
so.
good games, a couple of really bad games.
Yeah. I think we
there's
should
our
have,
thoughts.
like, without, we've talked about this before. He was still working on his bowling coming into this
Yeah.
tournament. That's not what you want to be. If he is one of your better players, and he clearly is, you don't want him still working on some stuff in this tournament. But yeah, he had a couple of good games and a couple of poor games, which is fine. Shaheen, we've talked about so much before.
Yeah, man.
If
This was the-
Shaheen had a knee, we would feel very differently. But he's slower than he used to be, and I'm not sure he'll ever be the bowler he once was.
Yeah, we've had a lot of
Also, I still
conversation on him.
think
Go check
sometimes
out the
he
previous shows.
over attacks a lot in the power
He
play.
probably
he did
still
that
bowls
today,
like
though.
when he was young, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, let's go forward. We've got Jehan something. I Arya Ratnam. Yeah, I got it. Fuck yes.
Yeah.
What are these teams smashing Australia? What is with these teams smashing Australia, then reverting to being crap in the rest of the series? In T20s, Australia can bowl, can play spin, and Cummins, Stark, and Smith would have made no difference.
Well, Smith would have made a difference because he can play spin quite well. I mean, there's a reason he wasn't in the side, and I back the team for not putting him in. Having said that, he might have made a difference. Cummins and Stark could have made a difference just because they could have one of them could have gone on a run against weaker batting lineup. Sri Lanka and Zimbabwe are not good batting lineups. I'm pretty sure if I don't care what the pitch is like, if I have the option of facing Hazelwood, Cummins, and Stark, or facing Ben Dwarshius, I know which option I'm going to pick, right? I don't care what the surface is like. So they could have won one of those games, but they weren't a very good team, and they needed
Also
the
has
Indian
a really good
wickets.
slow ball, right?
Yeah,
he's
He's
good
very
with
good
cutters,
on slow
yeah.
pitches, yeah.
but Australia needed the Indian wickets, right? Because they were set up to smash the ball out of the park.
Yep.
And they ended up getting the slower wickets that weren't never going to suit them, and they don't have a good bowling lineup. It's just a lot of things went wrong with them.
Yeah. All right. Let's move forward. We've got BRRT says, Behram, when you work with Robbie, is there a part of you that cusses him because he won the World Cup final against Pakistan in 2007 and hurt your hopes for the World Cup? Dude, I feel honored that I get to talk to a former cricketer on this channel. That's my feeling.
That's not actually true at all. And Behram is always saying what a fucking arsehole Robbie is, just over and over.
I can second. I witnessed that with my own eyes.
We've got the messages right here.
We got the video evidence of it.
Look, here's the thing. Once you start working in the industry, you just start working with people and you take them from who they are. And look, I don't want to say anything nice about Robbie on this channel, and it may be the last time I do. But Robbie is a really nice guy, and he's very hard to hate. And trust me, because I'm very quick to hate everyone.
Agreed.
Yeah, I mean, first time I talked to Robbie, I was in love with the guy. I messaged
my God.
Jared right after. Yeah.
I've deleted all the messages that Behram said because I will not accept anything nice being said about Robbie.
All right, let's move forward, Rakshit. Steve Watts says England can't win the World Cup without Butler, but what can he do from here to flip the switch and come good? Should he just shut himself off from practice and clear his head, or should he be dropped?
This is probably this is probably a much better question for someone like Robbie. It's so hard, and I always think this is the situation where, as a selector, you just have to go, what if he's just not gonna, what if it's just wrong? And you keep picking him because he's Jos Butler, right? And he's sitting there going, I can't do the thing I need to be able to do here. And it's a really hard decision. You look back to Australia dropping Shane Warne in 1999 in the West Indies, right? Such a big decision. But I think in Steve Waugh's mind, whether he was right or wrong, he just went, I don't think Shane Warne can be Shane Warne at the moment, right? And now that was obviously coming back from injury, so it's a little bit different with Jos Butler. But I think sometimes you just have to be honest. And what doesn't happen enough is I think you just have to go to the player and just have a really honest conversation and be like, do you think this is about to turn around or not? And if it's not, that's fine. Like, you are a legend and you are going to stay a legend of our cricket team, and you helped us change how we played white ball cricket forever. But we think we're an outside chance of winning this tournament. And do you think you can help us with that? I think, I don't know Jos very well at all, but I think Jos is the sort of guy you could have an honest conversation with, right? Whereas some players will always be like, of course I'll do it, Skip. I'll go. I think Jos is the sort of guy who's like, do you know what? I actually think I am hitting them better in the nets at the moment. I think I can do this. Or, I don't know, guys, you're going to have to make the decision for me.
Yeah, Jared, I was just going to ask you, because I was looking at his data, and I think 4 of his 5 dismissals versus pace have been the wider balls. Do you think it might just be one of those things where they're just bowling better to him?
Yes.
Rather than it just being like a momental thing? Or it could be both, of course, but still.
I mean, I could go back to when I was planning against him in 2018. My theory was always you put 2 slips into Jos Butler and you bowl wide and he pokes at the ball, right? Now, it's hard to do in
totally
T20
BGTing
cricket.
this, Jared.
Yeah. And also, when he's in good form, right? My theory, to go back to our conversation before, try telling Stephen Fleming that you need 2 slips in for Jos Butler when he's about to reverse ramp something for 6, right? It was an optimistic theory that I came up with, but we've seen it in Test cricket. He does struggle with that delivery. And when he's in form, he can play around that. When he's out of form, he's probably more likely to go out to those deliveries.
The other
Also,
way to look
the
at
other
it
thing
is that
is-
he's due.
Yeah.
And if he's due,
So we would-
a score might
I
come
think
now.
we would. Yeah, I think I remember talking with Cheyenne about this at some point. I think since like the last 2 years, his numbers at 3 are better. Do you think that's partly because he comes in after the initial seam is bit done, and it's much harder for you to do that plan outside the power play than it is inside the power play?
I think I actually don't think he's a particularly attacking batter in the first 3 overs of a power play. Like I'd have to go back and check the numbers.
No, it's
I
not
actually
just
think-
the attacking thing, right?
No,
It's
no. But
just,
what I
like,
mean
you're
is,
less
I don't
likely
see
to
what
do
the.
it, right? Yeah.
I never understood the idea of opening with Jos Butler because I actually think his main skill is later on in the game, probably batting at number 3 or number 4, right? And he's never been used that way. If he's not, if you think that there's a better usage of him, yeah, maybe this is the time. They've got other openers in this side.
Duck it. Anyway, Prudvi with the next super chat. He says South Africa better than India, better than England, better than the West Indies, better than New Zealand. They are my favorites after Super 8. South Africa are red hot favorites, the best bowling lineup and deep batting. For me, India is still red hot favorites, but I do agree that South Africa are the team to beat after them.
I think South Africa's
They're
the
in
most
better form,
informed team. I don't think they're the
Yeah.
best team.
Yeah.
Also, I wouldn't put New West Indies above New Zealand. I don't trust West Indies as bowling.
Yeah.
That's
Same.
Yeah,
Also,
I'm-
and
I
they
might-
basically
yeah.
forfeited the power play this tournament as well with the bat. So
Yeah. Anyway, let's move on. Let's go through these ones quickly. I need to go home, guys. Shiva Subramanian says, "Oh, come on, Bahram. Pakistan just traveled 154 kilometers in this tournament. India is traveling 10 plus kilometers by any team, most by any team, and also India is most traveled team in 23 World Cup. One time we got advantage. World gone crazy." You did not win the competition because of the advantage. You won
Are
the
you even
competition because you
listening,
are the
Siva?
best team. Pakistan had an advantage, but
yeah.
not the same advantage because they weren't playing at the same venue over and over again. But still, even if they were, they do not have that good a team. This is not
Siva,
rocket
so
science.
what
buddy.
Bahram and
Nonsense,
Jared
mate.
were
You've
saying
actually
is-
got to listen to words when we
they
say
had
them,
the
mate.
advantage, but they won
Yeah.
in spite of it, not because of it. I think that's
Yeah.
the
Yes.
best way we can
They
put it.
did. It is
Exactly.
very
Yeah.
fair to say that India had that advantage in that tournament.
Yeah.
But if you go through the whole history of World Cups, do you know what you're going to find? Lots of these. The reason it's been pointed out about India is because it was in a different country and it was done for other reasons. It wasn't just, you ended up in that situation. But teams end up with those advantages all the time. But as we were very clear at saying, and you can keep giving us free money, we will take your free money. As we keep saying, they were by far the best team in that tournament. They were destined to win it if they had to play it in Pakistan as well. We
Yes.
said that so many times. You'd have to be a fucking idiot to keep questioning that, right? So if you want to give
Prashant-
us free money, we'll take the free money.
Yeah, let's move on, guys. Prashant Tomar says, I know, but can't prove it. But Babar saw Akshar's video of making fun of his English in one video on booze bumps and meme reaction. Yeah, I have no clue about that.
I have no idea what that means,
I
but okay,
absolutely no idea what
those
that
are
is,
words
yeah.
that existed.
Yes.
Oh,
All right,
yeah.
let's move on. And we've got Prashant once again who says, Kuldeep Yadav or Varun or both because Varun's form is concerning.
Agreed. My form
stick
has
with
been
Varun.
really bad.
I still stick with Varun. Oh yeah, Varun's form has
So-
been terrible. He wasn't even here for the first 20 days.
I don't think Varun's form is that concerning, but I think that teams have played him well recently. But he's been the best bowler in the world. If you drop the best bowler in the world on the back of 2 bad games, you probably deserve to crumble in a knockout game.
I don't.
I don't
think
want to get
anyone,
too.
Yeah.
I don't want to get too Alan Donald in the 1996 World Cup quarterfinals about this, but my God, that did not age well.
Yeah,
anyway.
I don't think anyone has looked at his lens more than I have in the last few days, and I don't think there's much issue. It's just that what's happened is anytime he's missed a length, teams have been more ruthless because they think they have to disrupt him. And so on the Kuldeep thing, we were discussing this on the group as well. I was looking. So if you look at Eden Gardens, it supports slower spinners who bowl fuller or faster spinners who bowl in the defensive lane. So it suits both of them. So if you wanted, you could theoretically play both. But if you have our sleep, you can take early wickets and destroy West Indies as well. So there's no
And
right or
Arshdeep is in
wrong
form.
answer.
Ashdeep's
Yeah.
doing well now.
Yeah, he bowled well in the last game.
And it suits Akshar as well because he naturally bowls in both zones, actually. If you look at it.
Okay. Nice. All right, let's move on. Hassan Ahmed says Pakistan is the kind of team which thrives on emotion and chaos. A number of Pakistan analysts say don't pick an under 19 like Samir Minhas and Ali Raza in the main team. Mistake. Pakistan have done this all the time, buddy.
Wait a
Picking
minute.
Young players. Naseem
Don't
Shah
pick an
debuted
under-
at 16.
But this also doesn't make any sense. Don't pick an under 19 player, but then you also said it's a team that thrives on emotion and chaos. So you're saying they should continue to thrive on emotion and chaos? How about they just get more professional and play cricket better? I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah, that's a bit of a contradiction, but I do agree professionalism is the biggest issue with Pakistan cricket. And we always say that as well. W. Bruce Bale says, like the front foot no ball, wide should be third umpire's call.
Agreed.
We agree. Yeah, we agree. Let's move on.
Again, so the issue I have with that, Jared, again.
No,
is
Varun.
Oh my God,
The line
Varun,
is
there's
the
no
line.
time for your issues,
Yeah.
bro.
the
I'm
line
tired.
is the line. The wide line moves. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay.
Let's move on.
Okay, Hertz manager says, standing in for Jessica again. Shout out to Jessica, the Transmetal Alchemist, total legend. On a lighter note, please consider slapping a tariff on Behram whenever he plugs in pro sports. He runs a good show, though.
Okay, can someone go and when he does pro sports, can we see how often he mentions good areas or Combox? I want to see.
Very frequently.
Well,
Very, very frequently.
until I see the data and know that it's exactly the same in both directions, you may get fined.
I'm sitting in a pro sports studio right now. They're letting me do this. There's the plus point. Anyway, the last super chat is a fun one. Jared, try this out. We've got ARIEC Genon. Do it.
Ku Ed Rut Ka Ni Zam.
All right, then. What a brilliant note to end this show on. Thank you, everyone, for your interactions and your super chats. They definitely make a difference over here. And do remember to follow Combox everywhere as well. Like, share, subscribe. We'll be back once again tomorrow after the doubleheader to review both games. Till then, you guys have fun. Enjoy the T20 World Cup. Take care and goodbye.
Cricket has never finished at the close of play. It lives in the arguments, the memories, the comment sections. Cricket makes you talk. Combox is entering that chat.